Hey everyone, we are back with another update for our retro game project DaemonClaw, and by we, of course I mean with me as always is Corey. Say hi, Corey.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
There's not a lot of really new stuff that we can show in game for one reason, because one of the things I'm working on is the level 2 boss, which we want to keep a secret at least for now. Another thing Corey will be working on soon, if you recall, in the game, and I'll try to splice in some footage here, in level 2, throughout the level, there's a couple of little mini game scenarios where you're dodging these giant cubes of ice with people trapped in them, dead people trapped in them. And by the time you get near the end of the level, there is, you see this thing like a trebuchet that was launching them, and there's actually going to be like a commander type, bigger sub-boss for the end of the level that was controlling the thing, and Corey's going to be designing him very soon. And
Well, they may not be dead. Maybe they can be thawed out like off the powers or something, you know.
Could be. And then we could do a whole cinematic sequence of that whole evacuation complete thing. One of the
Right,
greatest
yeah.
scenes. But anyway, yeah, and I've been working on very placeholder animation set for the level 2 boss so that we can get that working. And by now I mean the actual full-blown boss after the sub-boss fight. Aside from that, the excellent musician that we have contracted to make the music for DaemonClaw is now working on 3 different small songs for the different cinematic sequences. So there's the intro cinematic sequence, and then after you beat any given boss fight to transition into the next level, there's this, which is a heavy homage to the cutscene in Altered Beast that shows you in the crystal ball walking to the next environment, and it shows this guy who's been helping you, who's kind of collecting the magical artifacts that you gather from beating each of the bosses. So there's going to be music for that, and then there's going to be one more musical score that I believe, if I recall, is for the intro dialogue sequence for each boss fight.
Right.
So those are the 3 different tunes that Mr. Brimble is working on. And aside from that, I figured it's about time I start testing DaemonClaw on some of the other platforms that we can export DaemonClaw to. And so the first one is Android, and I can actually start playing some footage. So the first thing I tested on is this cool handheld device. I jokingly called this video Nokia 3000. If any of you folks are fairly old like me, you might remember when cell phones were finally starting to get powerful enough to do simple games. One company that really took a risk that didn't pay off for too long was Nokia.
Are you talking
up
about
in
the
N-
N-Gage?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Nokia. Wasn't it Nokia that made the N-Gage?
Yeah, the
Yes.
Nokia
Okay.
N-Gage, yep.
Yeah. So exactly, Corey, the N-Gage. But the technology was still weak, and they were still trying too hard to be a small, very portable phone. So you had to. The buttons that you could press for actions were just the numeric keypad, but just slightly misshapen and stuff like that. But anyway, things have come a long way since then, and this particular device, I happened to see it at a heavy discount, and it actually is an Android phone that you could put 2 SIM cards in, and it's a fantastic device for emulation. You could emulate up to PlayStation Portable very smoothly, and it's got the shoulder buttons and everything. I'm sorry that there was no kind of screen or camera setting that I could find that would not have a washed out video, but hopefully you could see even once it makes it from my editing and exporting to YouTube's processes and everything. Hopefully you'll be able to see it's running very, very smoothly with all the layers of parallax and action. And while I was at it, I also tested Metro Siege on this device via an Amiga emulator. We will be able to also export, I should say, Alex, the programmer of Metro Siege, can also export to a lot of different modern platforms. But just for the heck of it, I wanted to see how well this thing ran Metro Siege via an Amiga emulator, and that also ran extremely well. So that was a lot of fun. So about the Android platform, we're definitely not planning any of these two games to be really fit for being a purely phone and mobile game. DaemonClaw does already have built into the engine support for touchscreen, but that's very much not the playing experience we want people to have. So even when we do put it on Android as a platform, it's going to be much more heavily targeted toward people that either at least already have a Bluetooth controller, which I can show you. That's the other option. I have more. This is my Samsung Galaxy Note phone, also running extremely smoothly. The screen looks a bit better on this video too for some reason, so you could appreciate the graphics, Corey's beautiful pixel art a little bit more. But you could see there's tons and tons of brands of high quality controllers. This one was particularly comfortable because you have it really holds well, very similar to an Xbox controller, and the shoulder buttons are kind of hidden behind the phone, but in a very similar configuration to an Xbox controller, and just very comfortable. But anyways, yep.
Like just in my own personal preference, like back when, the early portable systems and stuff, I always did prefer the controls kind of like below the screen instead of like on the sides.
Yeah.
Because if you're holding the sides, you're moving the screen a little too much sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's just a personal preference. So I can agree, like this probably was a better way to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing is, while that's a great portable system, any portable system like that is very narrow to hold. It's not a thick system. It's not thick like an Xbox controller. And they always end up putting the shoulder buttons right at the outside corners.
Yeah, that's the one aspect that's a little
hand crampy. Like I just can't adapt well to it. It's my old age, my big hands. I just cannot adapt well to that, and it always makes it so it's uncomfortable for me to play for long periods of time. So I actually prefer and would recommend for people like me that have that same experience, like with Game Boy Advance and all those systems that had the shoulder buttons on top. If that's a little uncomfortable, especially playing for long periods of time, these Bluetooth controllers, there are so many brands now. You can get really good ones for drastically less money than like a name brand Xbox controller, and they work flawlessly, and they last years. This one I'm using in the video, I probably bought about 7 years ago, and it still works fine. So
you're playing decently in the game.
Oh, thanks. It was hard too because I had the camera set up like in between my face, my field of view, and what I was trying to play. So it was definitely awkward, but I've played the game so many times. Oh, you could see also when I recorded this, I forgot to turn off. These are the touchscreens for controls for the emulator, what you just saw there, but you don't need those. So yeah, those were just the touch controls built into the emulator, but you can go into an emulator setting and turn those off, and then because you're playing with a Bluetooth controller, it's a flawless mobile gaming experience. And then the other point was, so the reason I wanted to test it was, which I had mentioned many update videos ago, I had come up with a much more optimized full screen mode. Obviously, it's going to run well on even a pretty weak Windows system, but testing it on several, like the two devices I have there that you just saw in those videos are several generations old Android devices, and the game is still running silky smooth. And so again, to get back to the point, the target other than Windows devices and Linux and Mac, there definitely is another sort of subset of mobile owners that either got a dedicated device that happens to run Android OS for a great mobile retro gaming device. But then the other option is something we won't mention by name specifically yet, but there's another very not portable Android-based system very dedicated to retro gaming that we would also love to target. So this was the first step, testing it. If it runs well on these old phones, it will definitely run well on that system. Similarly, we can also export DaemonClaw for iOS devices. And again, if it runs well on iOS devices, it will run well via the iArcade, which is just a cabinet that you put your iPad in, and then it just hooks up the controllers via Bluetooth. So eventually, once I get an iOS device to test on, there will be another update video at some point with me testing that as well for DaemonClaw. But that is it for this video. There should be some Metro Siege news in the near future, so stay tuned for that. But until then, thanks very much for watching.
If you enjoy our content and want to keep up to date on our games, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, if you want to support our projects, consider becoming a patron. The link's in the description, and we'll see you soon.